Hello. So this first video is to address your feet. I find that I often have a lot of pain and tension in my feet, and it could be years of chronic dancing. It might be just how I am physically, but I've noticed that in addressing my feet before I practice, or even within the midst of a practice, it tends to help the whole thing go better and helps my body feel better. So this first thing that we're going to do, I learned from Christina Stahl. She's an amazing Anyasara teacher, so go look her up if you have no idea who she is. But she calls this the navicular stretch. And what it essentially is you're using your own bone, your own body weight in order to relieve tension in another part of the body by applying pressure. So to do this, you might want to have two blocks nearby, as well as a blanket if your knees, ankles, or shins happen to be sensitive. Okay, that being said. So the first thing that you'll do is I like to have people touch their big toe mounds. And so you just see your big toenails, and then you travel up to the center of your foot. And then there's this big bony protrusion there that, you know, if you wear high heels or you've seen someone in high heels with really pretty feet, it's that bone that arches out. Dancers, you see this when they're on point, it's that curvature part. And this, I believe, is called the navicular bone, hence the name of the stretch, navicular stretch. So you want to touch that part of your body first so that you have an idea of where it is in space. It's just the physical act of touching is helping you increase what's called proprioception. So the next thing is I like to pad my space with a blanket, mostly because I don't practice with a mat. And then you have your handy dandy blocks to the right or to the left. From here, come forward onto hands and knees and make sure your knees are back underneath your hips and then slightly wider than your hips. Now, your right foot. So you're turning the thigh in just a little bit. Bring the top of your right foot, your top of the arch, the navicular bone, into the sole of the left foot, and then you'll sit yourself back. And you'll notice that here, if you look at my feet, they're literally crossed one on top of the other. The right is over the left. And some of you will stay exactly there as you are. And you have your handy dandy blocks to put your hands on if you're like, oh my God, this is a lot of pressure already. If you need more, meaning you're not trying to punish yourself, no masochism here, but you've got the capacity to take a little bit more sensation, you might lift the right leg up. So now I'm not mirroring you, it's the opposite leg. And you'll push down into your left foot with that right foot, and then start to drag your right big toe out towards the left. Well, right foot out towards the left big toe. And you'll notice that there's a lot of sensation happening there. Cool. And then we'll try all that on the other side. So you'll come forward, hands and knees. You'll extend the tops of the feet to the floor. Take your right foot over towards the left foot, lift the left foot up. Top of the left foot comes into the sole of the right, and you'll just sit your pelvis back. Handy dandy blocks might come in here, and you might shift your weight back so the spine is vertical. You might lift your left knee up, push, I like to draw my knees slightly towards each other, and push down with the top of your left foot into the sole of your right foot and start to drag your foot towards the left. And you'll notice if you stopped breathing, because there's a lot of sensation that happens to happen along the soles of your feet. And you'll pause and you'll breathe. Cool. And once you've gotten that left foot all the way towards the right big toe, really dragging along the medial arch, the inside arch, you'll go ahead and come forward, extend tops of the feet towards the floor. So that's the first one that I typically do every day. And you can do that 2 times, you can do that 3 times, you can do it as many times as you want, right side and left side. And you can also notice that if you place the top foot in different parts of the bottom foot, or the sole of the bottom foot, you'll get varying sensations, and you can play around with that, and it just feels really good once you're done. And I think that it helps with what traditional Chinese medicine calls all the nadis and meridians that begin and end at the feet. So it just helps open and stimulate those things. Speaking of which, the next one does that too. Now, this one's often called toe squat or toe torture, depending upon who your teacher is. I first learned this from Mary Beth Hickey, when I would take her yin class. So first step is just coming forward, hands and knees. Again, I'm patting myself with a blanket if that feels appropriate to me. And then some people might just tuck their toes under and say, happy days, this is exactly where I'm staying. And that's perfectly fine. It depends upon how much dorsiflexion you have in your ankle, meaning the dorsal part of your foot is able to come back towards your face. Sometimes you might be able to walk your knees, ankles, and shins together. And again, this depends upon how wide your hips are. And then some of you can start to walk your bum back towards your heels, and you'll notice that the sensation has increased. What we want to be mindful of is that as we start to deepen sensation, that the pinky toe hasn't escaped because it's going to want to. And then some of you will stay right here. You'll be like, yep, lady, not going any further. No worries, you stay there. Some of you might just bring a block underneath your bum, and then you might be able to bring your pelvis all the way up to vertical. Bolster also works here. Some of you won't need any of that, and you'll be able to sit here. So the block, the bolster is what determines that is what's happening in your knees to alleviate compression. But otherwise, block or bolster, you're still getting the same amount of stretch along the plantar side of your feet. Cool. And then if you're like me, I typically multitask while I'm here doing a bunch of different arm things. But one of the mudras that I learned from Mary Beth is to steeple the fingers, draw the thumb in, and like you're doing a Charlie's Angel, the thumb comes to the heart, the index fingers point straight up, and it's supposed to channel metal energy, which is intended to make this pose a little bit more bearable. When you're ready to come out, you come forward onto hands and knees, and you extend the tops of your feet to the floor. Now, some people like to pitter-patter their toes like they're having a little temper tantrum, and for some people that feels good. Others don't like that because it feels kind of abusive to the body, so they just often will shift their weight back and lift one knee and then the other, or maybe both knees. It really depends upon, for the counter stretch, this is called an ankle stretch, it depends upon how your knees, shins, and ankles deal with this. I know that I have a dancer friend of mine, Claire Baird. She likes to bring her foot all the way forward, and that feels pretty good, but she has the mobility in her hips as well as her feet to come forward, and it just changes where the sensation is in the body and in the foot. So all of that's to say, these are just two options with variations that you can take en route. And I encourage you to play with them and see what happens in your own body, your own practice. If you do these things every time before you practice, or just insert them when you feel like you feel tension in the backs of the feet or maybe even the calves. Cool. Thank you for joining me. Please leave a comment in the field below if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a great day, and I hope to connect with you soon. Namaste.